Hey, welcome back. Last time we talked was right before the 4th. We had that week of court where we were going to start with the coroner's case, but of course that got continued, and that was on the judge saying that he didn't think we could get that in during the week. So that gave us an opportunity to go to some of these other cases that we, would have been second, third, and fourth, and fifth up on the scale. And obviously what happens is when that first big case, we always start with a murder or kidnapping or a rape. And then after that, everybody, the defense attorney is saying, hey, probably won't get to you. When that gets taken off, it looks like mad chaos, but we are prepared. It's 2 or 3 day trials, that sort of thing. And most of that stuff ends up pleading. A lot of it did. The whole trial roster ends up pleading once that case is called to court. Here's an example of that. We had Edgar Jeffrey Humphrey. He's 52, and he's from New York. He had committed 2 armed robberies, like Circle K's in Myrtle Beach, and then committed an armed robbery at a Family Dollar in Myrtle Beach. And the second one he received in total about $90 and a pack of cigarettes. And that $90 cost him 10 years. And here's, real quick, I won't go off on a soapbox, but what happens, we talk about this, you and I, every week. South Carolina is a little bit different. South Carolina is different from North Carolina, and certainly different from New York, New Mexico, places like that. But 10 years in South Carolina means you got to serve 8.5 before you're even eligible for parole. And it would shock you the amount of times that we hear, we'll go ahead and plead to that. And we have to tell them, hey, you're from North Carolina. Just realize this is a different, you're going to be here. I mean, count, it's 2024. If you get the minimum, you're going to be here until 2032, sitting in a prison. This ain't like what you're used to. And he's figured that out, Mr. Humphrey. But he got 10 years, which is the minimum. And that, when we put stuff on the trial roster, we don't make any recommendations. We don't negotiate anything. Now it's get whatever you get. You said you wanted a trial, and it's your opportunity. The judge gave him 10 years, but it's still a substantial amount of time. Thank goodness nobody got hurt in any of this stuff. And, Myrtle Beach Police did a great job. Jacob Dusing and Jeremiah Beam helped us on that case with Myrtle Beach. Another case, which was further down the list, it was a burglary, which when we think of burglaries, it's kicking a door in, it's going inside and holding somebody at gunpoint. The burglary first is like 15 minimum, maximum life imprisonment. In this case, it was sort of an attempted type burglary. It was a guy that may have been scoping out the neighborhood, may have been, drugged up, whatever. His name's Willie LaVon Barnes. He's 50 years old, Conway. Beating on doors. The victims in the case went inside, shut the doors, called the police. Barnes threw a flower pot at one of the doors, didn't break anything but the flower pot. The police show up, are looking around for Barnes, and they go to a shed that's sort of attached to the house and say, everything's locked up. The victim said, well, that door is never locked, so there may be a problem. When the police push open the door, Barnes is laying in the floor with his feet up against it. It's still technically a burglary. It's something that we talked with him about early on. Hey, do you want to go ahead and accept responsibility for this, serve a couple of years and be done with it? Barnes was like, no, I need a jury trial. So he got one, and he ended up getting 6 years. He had been offered 2. The judge gave him 10 years suspended to 6 years active time, and then followed by probation, 4 years probation. A reason that the judge would do that is you've got 10 years hanging over your head. You go and serve 6 years in prison. He'd probably serve about 4.5 of that. When he gets out of prison, he's got to go check in with a probation officer, make sure that he's not doing drugs, doing anything like that. If he violates it, now they've got the remainder, that 10 years, to hold over his head and make sure he complies. He served 6 of the 10, so it's actually 4 more years that he could go back for and complete the remainder. This was a tremendously successful week, even though we started off with a little bump because of that case getting continued. But it allowed us to go back, and like Jim Stanko was one of our prosecutors, and Liz Farmer was ready for trial with Stanko on the armed robbery. And then a young lady that has been just trying to get into court, trying to try a case for a long time, Caitlin Cook, she actually got in her first trial with Assistant Solicitor Stanko in the flower pot burglar. So a lot more got done than this. This is just 2, but that entire trial roster of people standing back and saying, no, we're not going to trial. We're not going to plead to anything. We want a trial. Well, a lot of those got moved when juries were selected and said, okay, now's your time for trial. That's always been the case. It is something that, if you or I were on the other end of it, there's never a good time to go pull 6, 7, 10 years. But it's a lot better time than pulling 20 or 30 years. So sometimes people just say, well, we're going to wait, and I want a trial. I ain't done nothing. It's amazing. You put 12 people in the box and say, all right, so now it's time for your trial. People say, oh, well, I really did do it. Let me go ahead and plead. But it takes that, and usually people pull a lot more time, but they don't pull as much time at a plea as they would with a trial. And that's part of what keeps the whole system moving, and we're a part of it. But our caseload is in really good shape, and we've got a lot of aggressive prosecutors that are trying to get in there, trying to do the right thing. And we will have another term of court coming up on the 22nd, and we have specifically set that up for a drug trial to start, and then followed by a lot of DUI seconds, where we want to handle all of those cases. Same thing, people have sat back and said they'll never get to me, so we've put together a week of court just to get the DUIs and drugs, and that'll be July 22nd. So a lot going on in Orion, Georgetown, and we're going to do our best to keep you updated on it.